Today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about drop protection warranties on electronic devices. Now, I think that this is so important, I'm actually going to jump to my conclusion in this video in the beginning, because I know a lot of people on YouTube watch a video for a minute and then they click out. But I think this is so important, I want anybody watching this video to be aware. If you make purchases through Adorama, or basically any company that uses New Leaf as its third-party insurance carrier, you are wasting your money buying the accident protection warranty. So the reason why I said it is because I think that it is so important that consumers are aware that when you make a purchase with New Leaf, they're pretty much always going to deny your insurance coverage. And I think that that is very unfortunate, and I think it's unfortunate that a company like Adorama sells these policies, and basically in the end us as consumers are stuck with an insurance policy that we paid for that's not going to cover any damages. So let me tell you guys my story. So a few months back I broke my Canon 7D. Now, I had bought my Canon 7D from Best Buy and I'd got the drop protection warranty. I threw the camera in the closet because I don't use my 7D that often, and I forgot about it. Well, I knew that my warranty period was coming up because I've had that camera for quite a while now. And so I went into Best Buy, I took in my Canon 7D, the screen had cracked on it, and Best Buy asked me 2-3 questions. I signed a form. 7 days later, I got my 7D back in the mail. The screen was fixed, it was cleaned up, they cleaned the sensor, recalibrated it, it looked like a brand new camera. No hassle, no problems whatsoever. So I actually made a video and I had written an article for my blog. Before I posted the video to YouTube and before I published the article to my blog, I went on vacation, and at one point me and my family decided we were going to take a picture. And I happened to have a bunch of camera gear in the trunk of my car because the day before I had done a photo shoot. And I had recently bought the huge PLM umbrellas from Policy Buff, and I really haven't had much of an opportunity to use them, so we decided we were going to take this family picture. I was like, oh, this will be a cool opportunity for me to use them. I had my alien bees in the trunk. So I set everything up and I throw the camera on a tripod, and of course after I set the timer and I go to run up to take the picture, everybody decides they want to move, but that's a whole nother story. So the wind really wasn't blowing when I set everything up. Right as the picture takes, and you can see my fiance's hair in this picture, it begins blowing in the wind. A gust of wind comes up, and if you've ever used these huge PLM umbrellas, it does not take much wind to get these things going. Now, the light stand was weighted down, so the stand itself wasn't moving, but there was so much wind that it actually spun the umbrella, it hit the tripod, and it knocked the camera over. It landed on the lens. Luckily, I just had a cheap Nifty 50 lens on it. It was no big deal. But in the hot shoe, I had my Yongnuo 622 flash trigger because the day before I had been using my speed lights, and for whatever reason, I didn't take the flash trigger out of the hot shoe. I didn't pay any attention to it. I dusted the dirt off. I was annoyed. It was windy. So basically, we packed up and we left because I was like, there's no way I'm going to get another shot now because this wind just came out of nowhere. So the next day I go to take this flash trigger off of the 5D Mark III and it won't come off. And you know, I try all kinds of different stuff that I read online and it's not coming off. So since I had purchased my camera through Adorama, one of the things that they had given me, you know, they gave me a memory card and a camera bag and a bunch of other stuff whenever I bought my 5D Mark III. But Adorama included 1 year of accident protection from New Leaf. So I figured, hey, since I've got this warranty, I might as well use it and go ahead and send the camera off and get it fixed. So I go online, I file a claim with New Leaf. An hour or two later, we get a phone call and they ask some questions about what happened. Now, when I explained it to the lady, I just said, hey, the wind kicked up, my tripod got knocked over, and that was it. I didn't mention that an umbrella had spun and hit the camera. She puts me on hold. She comes back a few minutes later. She says, I'm sorry, we're not going to cover your repairs because wind is an act of God and we don't warranty acts of God. Now, I will admit I was a little bit upset about this because I had just had literally a week before I had such a good experience with Best Buy. I thought there was no way that Adorama's insurance wasn't going to be as good. I know I raised my voice. Maybe I was yelling, I don't know. But I began asking her questions, and she immediately, within a sentence, began yelling back at me saying, "Sir, I'm not going to tolerate you yelling at me, blah, blah, blah." I said, "Let me talk to a supervisor." So she puts me on the phone with the supervisor, and he says, "How can I help you?" And I explained to him, "Look, I don't understand this. You guys are providing me with accident coverage, and you're telling me that this accident isn't covered as an act of God." And my question to him was, I said, "Well, if I have it in my hands and I just drop it because I'm clumsy, isn't that an act of God? How do you define an act of God?" And anyways, he says, "Well, the issue is that the camera was on a tripod whenever it got knocked over, and we only cover damage to products incidental to handling." And so I was extremely confused by this. And to summarize mine and his conversation, basically I had to be handling the camera immediately preceding the camera being dropped and damaged. So I began asking the supervisor questions, and I said, "So if I put the camera on a shelf in my home and my dog runs into the shelf and knocks the shelf down and the camera's damaged, is it going to be covered?" And he says, "Well, it would depend on the specific set of circumstances, but we cover damage incidental to handling." And I understand this guy was extremely nice. I understand he's trying to toe a company line and he doesn't want to give me a bunch of specifics, and I understand that. So then I ask him, I say, "Well, if I have the camera on a camera strap and the camera strap breaks," which literally just happened to me a month ago. I had this happen. Luckily, the camera wasn't damaged. And I said, "The camera strap breaks. Is that going to be covered because I'm not technically holding the camera?" And he said, "Well, that's probably going to be a manufacturer defect on the part of the camera strap, and it probably wouldn't be covered." So at this point, I realized New Leaf is not going to cover a lot of things. Now, I had a previous experience with New Leaf, and I don't remember what the product was that we had problems with, but they denied the coverage on that as well. This was several years ago. So I explained to the supervisor, and I had already told the supervisor the additional portion of my story about the umbrella hitting the camera, something I hadn't told the first person I spoke to. And, when we were talking about this, I said, "So you're telling me that a tripod, which is used by virtually every professional photographer at some point in their work, I mean, some of us use them more than others, but using a tripod in a professional manner and it gets knocked over for whatever reason, that is not going to be a warranty coverage through your company?" And we go back and forth. He says, "Well, the tripods are lightweight," and he gives me all these different excuses for why they're not covered. And finally I tell him, I say, "Look, here, the reason why I'm asking you these very specific questions, and I'm trying to get you dialed into very specific answers because he wasn't giving me very specific answers, is," I said, "in addition to being a photographer, I'm also a writer. I do product reviews and things like that." And I go, ironically, I had just written an article, which hasn't been published yet, about my experience with Best Buy and their drop protection warranty program. And I said, the last thing I want to do is quote you guys and say that you guys won't cover certain situations, that you guys will. So that's the reason why I'm trying to get very specific answers from you. All of a sudden, the whole tone of the conversation changed. And he said, "Did you tell the girl that the umbrella knocked the tripod over?" And I said, "No." And he responded, "Well, that kind of changes the circumstances and the dynamics of it, because that's more of an accident because it was actually knocked over by something other than wind." So the supervisor puts me on hold and goes to check with somebody else. He comes back, he says, "Mr. Martinez, we're going to cover this under your warranty coverage." How convenient that it's an act of God if the tripod gets blown over by wind, but it's not an act of God if an umbrella gets blown over by the wind and knocks the tripod over. Basically what it boiled down to is they did not want any bloggers or writers or anybody giving them bad press. So we go through the whole spiel. He tells me where to ship the camera to, that I need to make sure that I put $2,500 shipping insurance on it, blah, 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 blah. So before the conversation is over, he tells me, he says, "Well, Mr. Martinez, a lot of people just don't understand that just because a product is damaged, it doesn't mean it's an accident." And I asked him what he meant. And he said, "Well, yesterday I had this guy who was irate. He left his cell phone in his back pocket and he sat on it and the screen broke." And he goes, "We refuse to cover that." He goes, "That's not an accident, that's negligence." Now, I didn't say anything because of the simple fact that I wanted my camera repaired. I didn't want to offend the guy at that point. I wanted to get my product taken care of. But that's an accident. Yes, is it negligence? Yeah, it is. But if you buy accidental damage protection on a product, you expect it to be covered for anything other than misuse. Yeah, I get it if, you know, you're drunk and you're playing catch with your brand new iPhone and it lands on the concrete and they don't want to cover it under warranty coverage. Okay, I get something like that. But something as simple as putting your phone in your back pocket and sitting on it, it's an accident. In addition to all of this headache and this 45-minute long conversation and argument that I have with this woman and this supervisor, now I've got to go down and ship my camera off back from California all the way to New York to get it repaired. So I go to FedEx and explain to the guy that I need $2,500 shipping insurance, and I'm not a shipping guru, so I probably could have got the shipping done cheaper, but anyway, so he says, well, if you want $2,500 worth of insurance, we have to inspect it, make sure it's packaged right, blah, blah, blah. So he opens the box, looks at it, says, it's not packaged right, it's going to be an extra, I think $7, $8, I forget what it was, for us to repackage it for you, or you can take it, package it yourself, whatever you want to do. He said, I'll pay the money. So it ends up costing me $52 to ship this to New York for repairs. So my point to all of you and my caution, because I hate to see people get ripped off, and I think New Leaf is the biggest ripoff in the world with the way that they look for reasons to try to deny coverage. Anything other than you just straight dropping your camera, cell phone, tablet, whatever the case may be, on the ground, they're probably not going to cover it, and they're probably going to try to give you a big hassle in getting any kind of coverage for it. And I think that's very disappointing. Now, I'm not a big fan of Best Buy. I have more than my share of complaints about Best Buy. But the one thing that I can say, and I buy a lot of stuff at Best Buy for the simple fact that it's the only electronic store within an hour and a half of where I live. I've got to either go to Fresno or Los Angeles to go to any place other than Best Buy, except for like Radio Shack, but I think they're all going out of business anyways. But anyways, I get off topic way too easy. But because I do have 3 kids who are hard on their stuff, and I'm hard on my stuff. In fact, I'm probably careless and I break a lot of stuff. We have Drought protection warranty on pretty much all of our portable electronic devices. We've broken cell phones, we've broken Nintendo DS's, and every time that I've taken it into Best Buy, it has never been an issue to get the item repaired and to get it back to us quickly. Now, am I saying that everybody should go buy all their stuff from Best Buy? No, I'm not saying that, but I can tell you that for me, it's not only a huge peace of mind that if our device gets broken that it's going to get fixed, but what for me the bigger peace of mind is that I know Best Buy is going to handle the repairs for me. For example, on my 5D Mark III, if New Leaf had stood by their denial of coverage and I had to take care of it myself, I would have had to find the nearest Canon authorized repair center, which I believe is in Fresno, which is an hour and a half away from me. I would have had to call them or do whatever to make the arrangements that my camera is coming, explain to them the problem, ship it up there or drive up there and drop it off. They'll get it, they'll inspect it, they'll call me back and say, hey, this is what the problem is, this is how much it's going to cost to get fixed. I'm going to have to decide if I want it repaired or not repaired, and then pay the bill, and then when it's done being repaired, it's going to be shipped back to me. Those are just steps I don't want to take. I want the convenience and the peace of mind that I can just take it somewhere, drop it off, everything's going to be taken care of, and I get my product back in working order. I'll give you guys an example. I don't know, 2 years ago or so, we had a broken iPad and a broken Xbox 360. It was Red Ring of Death, whatever they call that. And I Googled, you know, repair, video game repair, whatever. The first place I called that came up in Google search returns, they were out of business. The second place I called, they never called me back. The third place I called, the guy says, yeah, I'll fix them. This is how much it'll be, blah, blah, blah. Verify the address that Google lists. I go from my home 30 miles to Bakersfield to go drop it off, and I'm driving down a residential neighborhood. There's no businesses on this street. So I call the guy back and I say, hey, apparently I've got this address wrong, or maybe it's North First and not South First. I forget what the street name was. Anyways, and the guy says, no, you're on the right street. It's the yellow house with the broken down Camaro in the front yard, blah, blah, blah. And he says, I'm not there. Just drop it off with my cousin and I'll fix it and I'll give you guys a call tomorrow so you can come pick it up. no, sorry, I'm not going to go drop my stuff off at the house, at somebody's house to get repaired. And so my point is, obviously you want to deal with these authorized repair centers, and in my area there is no authorized repair center. So no matter what, I've got to take steps that I'm not going to take. And so you know what ended up happening with that Xbox and the iPad? They're sitting in my closet. They've never been repaired. And I ended up buying an Xbox from my neighbor, and my kids used that until they got the Xbox One. So getting things repaired are just steps I don't want to deal with. So for me, not only do I basically build in the cost of the repair whenever I purchase the product, it's, I'm paying for it up front if I ever have any damage to it, but it's also the convenience factor that I know it's going to be taken care of, and I'm not going to have any kind of headaches with it. So as far as drop protection warranties go, it's up to you if you think that it's something you need or you don't need. I need it because I know I'm clumsy, careless, and hard on my gear, and I break a lot of stuff. My kids break a lot of stuff, but I want the peace of mind that I know when I call, it's going to be taken care of. So hopefully that helps you guys out. I would absolutely love to hear from you guys about your experiences. I'm really curious about, I believe it's Square Trade, which is the insurance company that B&H Photo uses. I've looked online and I've seen some people who had some fairly positive remarks about them, but I would love to hear your guys' experience on different companies, different insurances, and whether or not they covered your warranty claims and what the reasonings for that were. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope this helps you out and it saves you some money and a lot of headache in the future. Have a great day, guys.